Hello guys, so today I had the idea to make a video about how basically to get good GCSE results. So I'm by no means an expert in this, but first of all I'll just tell you quickly what my GCSE results were, which was back in 2016. So I got 2 A stars, 10 A's and 1 B. So I was obviously very happy with those results. I worked very hard for them, and what this video is basically going to help you with is to maybe suggest some ideas that I did to help me get those good grades, and sort of things that I'd avoid doing that I noticed weren't actually very good when actually revising. So let me start first of all by what wasn't good, because I tried every single sort of revision technique that I could think of doing, and doing so allowed me to see what was good specifically for me and what I think would be useful for other people as well. So the things that I found that were very good, so I'm like the sort of person who is quite creative, so I'd spend like £60, probably even more, on stationery in the new school year. So I'd be buying colourful pens, gel pens, sticky notes. I'd basically be that person in class who had like a massive pencil case and I had everything in it. Like, you want a rubber? Here you go, got a rubber. You want a gel pen? I've got it in about 20 different colours. So that's the sort of person that I was. So because of my sort of creative side, I spent a lot of time making stuff like posters and little revision cards, which I think revision cards can be effective, but it depends how you actually use them. So for me, I was using this creative side to make drawings. I'd be looking at, say like if you get given like a textbook in class, I'd be copying basically the same or similar words out from that textbook into my own notes, and they basically just were sort of looking a bit identical, but it was my own sort of spin on the textbook, which for some people I think that does work, and I think that's quite effective if that's the sort of person you are, and you are when you're making the notes, you are still learning and still taking in the information. But I personally think it just wasted quite a lot of my time. I was doing it like because I find creative things fun, so that was more the reason why I probably revised more, because I was finding it fun doing like drawing and doing all these creative things. But what I found was more effective from doing that sort of revision was, instead of like regurgitating it word for word into my own set of notes, is finding like the key specific points. So a good thing to do is a lot of your teachers will use a specification from the exam board. So for example, in biology, you'd have for the whole course, if you typed in, so if you did AQA biology, you type in specification AQA biology and then whatever year you're studying that exam, and as you go down it'll tell you the exact spec points. So it'll say, for example, for photosynthesis, and then under that title there'll be what you need to know for photosynthesis, but it won't be in a lot of detail. It'll just be, you need to know the word equation, you need to know sort of, I can't really think of an example, but like the word equation would probably be like a really key point that you need to know in a spec. You'd also need to know maybe about diffusion, what things affect diffusion rates and different diffusion pathways. So a good thing to do is use that spec and then use your textbook and look at the spec point. And I know one of my friends did this. He used to get revision cards with the spec point as the title, and then he'd use the textbook to locate that information to put under the spec subtitle, if that makes sense. Which I think is that's an effective way of using creative revision, rather than making posters to put on your wall and just for the general fact that it looks nice and you're not actually taking in information. But it does make you feel good. I think that's a key point about doing that. It makes you feel like you're revising, but maybe it isn't the most effective. Well, maybe not, this isn't a bad way, this is a good way that I found was good to revise, was doing practice past papers. So doing that, you basically, it's like when you're learning to drive, you learn in a car because that's what you're going to be tested on, is driving the car. So if you're learning through things that you're going to be tested on, then you're going to become like an expert at that when you're actually having to do the exam. So a lot of the questions that they do use in exams, they do actually reuse, but they reword them a lot of the time. So I was doing, for example, for my chemistry exam, I did quite a lot of like practice past papers leading up to the actual general exam. And I remember in my real exam, there was a question that was literally identical to a past paper question I'd seen before. And because I'd looked at the specific marking points as well, I knew exactly what that question wanted. So a good thing to do is do the practice papers, but you're not just doing it to see how good you are and how good you are getting at that subject. You do the practice past papers to look at those specific questions and the specific marking points that will go with that similar question, because the questions that come up year in year, they will be similar. They might not be identically the same, but it's your job to sort of notice that they're similar and notice what similar marking points went with that similar question in previous years, because that's sort of what people who write the exams are looking for, basically. So that's a really good sort of way to revise, by looking at the marking points and practicing past papers. Other sort of ways that I did, so it depends what sort of learner you are. I'm quite I don't know if I can't think of the right word, but I learn when people teach me things. So I learn by listening. I don't learn by reading things. If I could read a book and it not go in, but someone could read the book to me and it would go in. So that's the kind of learner I am. So what I do, I did it with some of my subjects. So French was like a key one to do this with. I'd record myself either saying the information from a book, or I downloaded something which was useful. This was in A-level though, but I think there are some GCSE packs in this. So this is called Snap Revise, and this is sort of a way to listen and take in the information. So Snap Revise, it was created by, I can't remember her name, I think her name's Jasmine. She is a Cambridge student, and she goes through spec points and she sort of teaches you the information under the spec points, which is very useful. So when I was studying A-level for biology, when I was in my free period, I'd just have Snap Revise on and I'd be listening to it. So I wouldn't even have to look at the video, because I was listening to it, it was going in anyway. And you could do that. I remember one time I was literally walking around Asda, this was when I was doing my GCSEs, and I was listening to like the different processes of the heart, so how the blood moves through the heart. And it depends, honestly, it depends what kind of learner you are. If you're better off reading things and taking it in, then by no means do that. But like I said, I'm better at listening. So videos, even on YouTube, there's a lot of YouTube videos that are good to look at that teach you things. Like I said, Snap Revise. There may also be some other things that you could have a look and play at, but even just recording yourself might be useful. That's it for today, because I don't want to run the video on too long. I hope some of these ideas have helped. If you have any more questions, just drop me a message and let me know. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, please. Bye, guys.